different models, which were each coming from individual users. And here, basically, we wanted you to have something as similar as possible to the final images that the people had used for training. And therefore, we calculated an average over the per image SSIM scores. And while you're giving the presentation, what we are most curious about actually is how you extracted the data for the gradients, especially for the models 9 and 11, which are the vision transformers, where in the original papers that are out there, people mainly focused on CNNs and MLP layers. So with that, we're extremely happy now to see how you solve the tasks.
So as usual, each team has 6 minutes. So we recommend 2 minutes per task.
I will indicate, as always, 2, 4, and then there will the timer be ringing.
So we first invite to the stage advanced persistent thinkers.
Who's gonna speak first from you?
Cool.
Then maybe like you put.
Oh, yeah, but I have just like quick introduction.
Okay, very.
So,
Like one of you needs to
just
stand in the middle, and then.
yeah. Okay, so
I will be taking.
should I speak to this or not?
Yes.
Okay.
For the Zoom participants.
Okay.
I do. Good.
I can see if you're there.
Oh, okay. Okay. Okay, so hello guys. We are Advanced Persist Thinkers, team of 4 based in Warsaw. As you can see on the graph, rank over time, we are persistent not only by the name, but also by our work ethic. We start really strong, then we dropped, but we kept working very persistent throughout the whole night. And we end up in top 6. So that's how we work. But I'm talking about this because we are really tired and the presentation might not be on the highest quality, but I think we will manage and you will have a great time hearing what we have done. So I will handle it to Kalina that will tell you about the first task.
Yes, so the first, I have only one slide, so don't worry. We started with the very basic skill, which was reading comprehension, because it took us some time to find out that we have all the secrets needed for the detectors for the methods. So we researched a lot of white black box methods, but we used them later on because the raw detectors weren't enough. There was a lot of false positives and the scores were awful. So we decided to make some like rich feature pipeline with around 130 features. So don't ask me to name every single one, but they are mainly in 5 groups. We use these raw detectors for the typical for the methods used to watermark for the clues. Then we used the model used for tokenizer to count likelihood rates and some other groups as a clues for the specialist models that were trained using these features on the training and validation set, and then the prediction was used on the test set. The regions were mostly detected with windows of different sizes and some smoothing to detect the that spans with little holes with low score still can be marked as watermarked. So this was our best way to do that.
Okay, so not coming to any task because it doesn't work. What? Oh, okay, so yes, the presentation broke. So for the second task, basically we started with what we think was the expected solution. We tried training our own detector and then using it basically as an oracle to perturb the original images and try to minimize the mean error while still fooling the detector. However, we never managed to train a good detector. Our detector throughout the whole experience was terrible, and I don't even want to talk about it. And the issue is that the score is counted by detection, which is 0 or 1, times the 1 minus MSE. So if you don't get the correct detection, you don't get any points for the task, no matter how small your error is. So at that point, we realized that the mean score error is actually secondary. We don't really need to care about it as long like if we can get the initial if we can get the initial detection correct, we don't care about the MSE. And there was actually no requirement to modify the images at any point. So why are we doing the whole perturbing when you can just take the images from the target group and maybe try to adjust them, and at least we'll get the correct detection, which is even with the worst MSE possible, still better than what we were getting. And from then we just started optimizing. Basically, for fooling the detector into detecting images as generated was the easiest because, well, we have the tokenizer. We can just kind of make them closer to the generated images. And for members to non-members, we just pulled a lot of images and tried to find the closest matches with the lowest differences. And the hardest part was finding member images that matched the non-member or generated images closest. And we ended up using ImageNet with a lot of classifiers to basically find the lowest cost closest image across a ton of images that could probably still be detected as the member.
Okay, so the last task, we used a few methods. The best one was a clean real face retrieval. I talked through from the first. So analytic leak is the first vanilla gradient leak. Then we add noise, the noise to these gradient leaks. For CNS, we used a conv stem inversion. So from convolutional layers, we are trying to push them through another layer to match images. Then we tried identity model inversion. So we used diffusion models, and basically that's it. So thank you very much, advanced persistent thinkers.
Any questions?
I would be super curious to understand more about actually your first task. So like the question also that Adam had raised, like this detection of especially the edges, like how did you decide when the watermark would be over, or like did you make any particular assumptions?
We didn't focus entirely specifically on that. We tried some things, but using window context from left and from the right, but it didn't have that all. So,
and honestly, a lot of our approach there was actually very computationally intensive. That is, doing a lot of iterations with different mixes of the metrics that we had, and basically checking what works best. We had some basically our guesses at how close we would probably be to the tested at least. So, and try to optimize for that.
we're very experiment based.
our solutions are probably not as much machine learning, not as elegant in machine learning terms, but we find them pretty elegant in the hacking sense.
Any more questions from the audience? And also regarding task 2, so I was also curious. So basically, you found images that actually were used for training, and then you were searching how to fool them, how to basically, okay, non-members from the same data set, and then how to find the closest possible to be members.
Actually, I don't think we're quite sure that ImageNet was the training data set, but basically it was a large data set that we assumed probably was related. So we guessed that it would get closer to member images, and it did. And yeah, basically our whole pipeline was guessing that these are probably trying to find the image that was probably in the right class and as close to the original image as possible.
Very good. Any more questions? Really?
I'm so curious. Can you also go back to the last slide? I think your federated learning results were pretty impressive. So the images eventually looked very good. So like what was like really at the end the secret? Was it a combination of like
as you can see, we used a data set which isn't actually one-to-one same person. So it's not robust solution, but it gave the best score. So why not? At the slide earlier, there were more robust solution like this. Out of my head. So basically, that's what have worked. So we had a sample of 20 images, faces. We used these gradient lakes and tried to match, compare the closest one and send closest one, because the metric penalizes noise. So that's why softened images were scored more like better for us.
makes sense. Okay. Good. Yeah, good that you studied the metric. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So there was nothing specific for VITs.
I think this, if I remember correctly, these were the models that were giving us trouble. So if I remember the numbers correctly, but I might not have. I haven't slept for like 30 hours.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So much. Good job, Jordan. All right. So we'll be asking like team number 2 to stage.
Team Alex.
Yes. So wait, you only put the Alexes on stage? Don't you think it's a bit discriminatory? You're the honorary Alex, so come on, you're part of it. Okay. This is the one for the Zoom participants, and this is the one for us here, so you can just clip that on.
Okay.
Why are they copy? There's a feeling sick.
Я просто скажу, типа, привет, мы So we basically can start, right? Everything works now. Yeah. So we're Team Alex. Yeah, as you, we haven't really had much time to prepare our nice presentation, but at least we had some memes on it. So probably you enjoy it.
Okay. Yeah, so 3 tasks, as you all know. Let's start with the first one. Basically, localization of watermarks in the text, and we have to predict a 0 to 1 score for whether it was generated. Yes. And the score is TPR at 0.1% false positive rate. So the input, each document was 2.57 billion parameter token sequence. And there were 4 families mixed. It was KGW, Unigram, Gamble Max, and TechSeal. Yeah, yes, I'm coming to that. That's the interesting part is basically our pipeline, what we used. So basically, first thing, the most important is to detect the signals. And for that, we had to figure out that KGW green lists must be recomputed on GPU, and on CPU it was making some errors, basically losing a signal. For the features, we added some entropy, we added some resampling, and some log likelihood ratios. We also calibrated. Okay. Oh, okay. Okay, I will be faster. We used light GBM for the model, and we then blended the rank average. And our last move was to fix the edges, basically apply some shelling technique, which allowed us to jump a little bit further. Yeah, that's our hyperparameters. And yeah, that's basically what I already told.
Do I have like now 2 microphones or?
Yes, you need 2 microphones.
Okay, good. So next task is second is MGI. It's basically or whatever. We already talked about the task. Yeah, it's basically more specific version of what's called ABI. No, MBI, members interference of the attribute interference when we want to know if the image was in a training set. Here is more specific. We had a situation where we generated image and it can be misclassified that it was like generated. And there was the main paper which was important for us is the data circuit breaker, I think, called one. And there was the assumption that if the image which was generated by another model will be used for training set of another model, and the idea was how somehow to find a way to classify them. And there was a classifier who was doing this, and our task was to pull him. So if there was so like if there was a member, like image from a member set, it will be like non-member set or as a generated, and for it was already old anyway.
4 minutes are over.
Oh, sorry, it was like done in 5 minutes. It's very bad. Yes. So what we did for doing with members and non-members to be classified as a generated one is that we use basically the RAR wiki, and for members, non-members, and from generated to non-members, we use PGD suppress the membership, and from generated to member we use stack to PGD, and from M to M, yeah, that was the most tricky one. Didn't work for us. I would tell you, but it's covered with the image. Yes, and here was also the image from the paper with the distribution which we use. So this VR and yes, and yes. Now the gradients, as it was told, we had 12 models, and we had the gradient full gradients, and we wanted to reconstruct the images. And if I remember correctly, the question was how we targeted 11 and 9. That's the point. We didn't. It didn't really much work for us. We mostly targeted number 6 because it was like the most obvious with the faces, and we used the one model ablations and diversity filtering. There's also mentioned denoising. I was not the one who was designing this. No, it didn't work actually. It actually set us back, and we couldn't progress more. Yes. Yes. Yeah, there is more general information. Yes, and there was a problem that we tried during the training to add several models at once, but it didn't really help much, and we wasted a lot of time. Yes.
Audience. Okay, sorry.
Can you say more how you dealt with this edge bleeding and first task? You said it on the end of the thing.
Yes, of course. That was the last thing that we solved. Basically, we trained a very small model that was specializing on detecting like these tokens that bleed out of the edge of like decision boundary, and those that were in but were not supposed to be in. And that's how we solved it, and it got us like maybe 4% boost. Yes.
Thank you.
Any questions from the audience? I'm not gonna throw this microphone.
Okay, so the second task that you passed really rapidly on how do you exactly make the change from the N to the M, the last change, that is the next slide. The M to the M that is overgrouping with the image.
From N to M.
Yes, the last one, yes.
Yes. I actually can't tell, sorry. It's covered with the image. I don't remember already. Sorry, can't answer.
Okay, no problem.
Yes. I don't have the phone. Create the tokens using the RSPD, and then we optimize the pixels towards the latent token targets. We use the K tokens targets using the RAR SPD, and then we optimize pixel towards the latent token targets.
Explain a bit more. How was it done?
Oh, no, sorry, I can't.
Okay. Any more questions?
My question was like, what, like in the federated learning task, what do you mean by the model ablation, really? You can or you can't? Okay.
Oh, was it? Let's see.
Like you had that, basically on the previous slide, yeah, you had this one model ablation. Like if you go back one slide.
Yes. Okay, it was
Like-
forward.
Exactly, one model ablations.
Station. Maybe what we mean is that, I mean, we ran a lot of ablation studies to check all the possible hyperparameters, all the possible techniques that we can apply to it. And I don't really remember which one worked, but it was hundreds of them.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, let's find the speaker.
Oh, there's one.
Okay, thank you so much.
And
Good
I
luck.
can take the microphones. You can
Okay.
start with the next person.
Now, syntax
Thank you so
step.
much. I'm
Please
glad
take up
again.
the stage.
Thank you. I'll also grab the microphone from you.
Sorry. Oh, where was it? Yeah, that's-
Perfect. Perfect. So ideally, the ones who have these microphones just stand in the middle. And this one here you can pass around as for the Zoom participant.
Okay.
And this one,
Next slide.
this one, basically is
Microphone or?
that's a room microphone for the Zoom
Okay.
participants, and this is just for us, for the recordings.
Okay, so
So I was just informed that we'll have a mini bio break of 5 minutes after this presentation, and then we'll be moving on.
Okay. Okay, so hi there. We are Syntax Terror. It's just three of us because our fourth guy is connecting from the States, so good for him. He didn't have to stay up all night. But anyway, the solution of the first task. Okay, the first thing is that the budget, the error budget was quite. It's just a handful of spans, not tokens, so it's quite hard to tackle that. But anyway, we didn't start there. We start with just a naive approach with some gradient boosting models, which was fed with features from a part of our four detectors. And that gave us our first result, but it quite failed because it doesn't know it treats tokens quite separately. And the first breakthrough was changing the model, the architecture change, and it was explicit duration Markov model. So it enumerated along every possible split between watermark and not watermark spans. So I think that quite answers the question because it depends on the model rather than on some sliding window or a threshold. So it gave us the first shot without fine-tuning 0.24. And then, then entropy encoding along with our features, another boost, and replay. So since we know the rule and the model, we could determine whether the watermark tokens are actually watermarked or not. And finally, some final refinements with tokens treated separately, namely KGW and TextSeal, and that led us to our final score.
We split this MGI task to three paths in respect to EOT. It's our mimic of our hidden black box model. It's expectation over transformation technique, which we found. And with respect to results of EOT technique, we have three paths from attack from generative models. Here we blend images generated with some real images. Here it's deterministic behavior because here we have good scores on our EOT technique. So we make some open coder reconstruction of small detail colors and geometrical perturbation. And this was the hardest way from non-membership to membership, which we found hinge loss with respect to our EOT technique. EOT is some guessing of probability of tokens like perplexity in large language models. And what is interesting, we submit every one pair separately, and we try to reverse engineering of legal scores, but it didn't work too good.
Okay, so for the last task, we essentially first noticed that these are separate architectures and we need to treat them separately. So for the easiest ones, NLPs, we just did the like this inversion by doing this gradient division, and it worked pretty well. For CNNs, we did something called finding the singleton rows, so the rows where the gradient was high for the single images, and then we refined it. Here I can explain it a bit better. So first we did this division the same like in MLPs for the fully connected parts, and then we measured what is the head. We compared the head layer with the gradients head layer. We also guessed the label by just comparing the labels with the comparing the gradients comparing the gradients for the all of the candidates and choosing one. And then we removed from the existing gradients this candidates iteratively so that we could find more of the singleton examples. But, so this was like the most interesting part. But for the question for VITs, we didn't really find like the solution which could use gradients, even though we tried. So we did K and N of the Celeba dataset to find centroids of the faces. And then we optimized it using SSIM as a function, optimization function to find the, like more real faces, and it worked better than our like gradient approaches. Thank you.
Oh, so it's amazing hacking.
Thank you so much for the presentation. I was curious, you have this like on one of the slides, EOT certification. And I was actually wondering, like you have on the like slide afterwards kind of an explanation what is EOT, but like what is EOT certification really?
EOT certification is like only name. It's I name it like it's scoring. It's because we try to speed up. We cannot make so much submission.
Right.
So it was a mimic of our black box in our local environment.
Oh, okay. And can you explain again, like this EOT is the same over all these setups here? Like, or what is
Yes,
what?
it's all the time it's the old setup and all same quantization, transformations, and we try to tune this to mimic this paper which was attached to the task.
Okay, thank you.
If you're in this task, could you also go back to this like nice figure with all the paths? Okay, this one. Yes. So what is really also the difference between this EOT per slot versus others?
It's the same. It's only
okay.
It was fast generated, so. But it's slightly the difference here because here we have Heinz loss that moves values of pixels in different way, and it's this moving signal pixels signal moving from side to side with it's moving with Heinz loss that is calculated in respect with IoT certification. So it can be named as slot because it's optimized here.
So if you had a bit more time, how would you improve the scores from G to M and from N to M?
From N to M, maybe it would not be Heinz loss, which optimize some given threshold. It could be some moving threshold here. I think it would be interesting. Because if we not make a straight threshold, we can make something like sigmoid or Lennable activation functions, something like this. Maybe moving Ferrell function, which will decide if we make this if we can move in good side or in bad side.
Any more questions?
Okay. Do you have any idea regarding this, why you were able to fool the detector from G to N, but not for G to M, while N to M works quite also poorly? I mean,
these ones worked from almost from the start, so I think it could be some luck. that we found this IoT assumptions that was coincidentally similar to this black box model, the task. But which one you asking that is bad?
I mean, the difference between G to M and G to N. It's
okay. It's we blend with different pixels. From G to M, we blend the G with membership, and here we blend the G with non-membership.
okay. Thank you.
Any more questions? Okay.
Bio break, and feel free to grab a drink. And
Thank you.
just be sure to be ready.
Quick request. So
most exciting company here in Saarland because they do a lot of like trustworthy machine learning, but as a product. And so I would highly recommend to each and every one of you, you have like now worked on these kind of problems, but if you want to meet one of the few people who really turned it into something that people are excited about and like funding, and this like QuantPy, I would say, is one of the most exciting startups that I've seen. They receive like the ERC equivalent for startups. And I think it's a really unique achievement. So please later on, I'll like have a chat with Philip, just to find out more, like what are the opportunities to really like work on this stuff in the real world. Right.
Thanks for this introduction, Nancy. And now we'll move on to the presentations. So we have a plan for 3 more presentations, and we start with the 4 brain cells, and Franziska will take the time for that.
Yes, so hello, we are 4 brain cells. We are 4 people from Vienna. You do all the inappropriate math yourself. And we're presenting our tasks. So the first one, which I cannot show, unfortunately. Can I press the button? No. Yes, it was text watermarking localization, and I'll just guide you through our solution. So we started with reproducing all detectors for each watermarking method. 4 of them, the trait classifier on the scores. We got 0.36, very low score. Then we added an entropy scores for tokens because watermarks are only detected on tokens with high entropy. That boosted score to 13%. Then we decided to generate more synthetic data without Unigram because Unigram didn't work. And we trained a classifier on top of that with a 1D convolution to capture these windows. It gave us 21.8. Then we decided to move to hidden semi-Markov model. So it's semi because it's not looking in the whole path because we have a limited window. And we had to add like explicit emission. So emission in this case is what we know about what can we observe and how it connects to the state. And then we decided to, what we did, we removed the duplicated n-grams. This was for the green-red list methods, because if we have the same token and it repeats and it's green, it shouldn't be calculated several times. It's just several occurrences of the same token. So we did that. It boosted scores a little bit. Then we tuned temperature per document because temperatures were different, and we had to tune this to have the maximum likelihood. And then we used per watermarking scheme calibration because they also return scores in different ranges, and we wanted to fix that. And finally, we improved KGB, so red-green list. I'm running to 2 minutes to have to include both probability and entropy. And and some things failed. Cut edges, remove islands, but because we used Markov model, it was okay.
For the second task, we first approached it just to create a nice baseline for ourselves to improve. So I think maybe a lot of people started like this to basically swap the images with the images from the training set of the target class that we are targeting. Of course, this was expected to have a high detection score, but very low MSC. So from there, we then, this should not be there. So then we looked, okay, what do we have available? So we used the RAR model basically for our advantage, and also the implementation from the paper of the MGI paper. Yeah. So what we did is like we approached, of course, different misclassifications in a different way. So first of all, the misclassification to the class generated. What we did there is the reconstruction with the RAR model. So basically, we simply took the samples and reconstructed. So like sorry, my brain is on one brain cell. Yeah, so basically simple reconstruction. And also we tried some different things in the meantime. So basically in the latent space, we thought, okay, if we modify something before yes, yeah, decoding. It would maybe change something. This didn't really improve things, but yeah, it was worth trying. And then for the other types of misclassifications, we applied a sort of projected gradient descent because we had the model, the detector model, basically. So we had to, yeah, now I'm running out of time, but we had to adapt a little bit how we define the loss function in these three cases. Yeah, so that's it mostly.
Yes, and the third task, so we started for all the models the same with analytical approach from the paper, and some models worked better, some not so much. And also for the post-processing, we applied blurring to all of them. Yes, then for the MLP, we for all of them, we used the gradient matching optimization. Like, yes, and for three of them, it worked the best, but also for the force model, we tried to generate the images, and that well, that improved the score. So that was the final model.
So I will continue, please. I will be close to you to enjoy your company and the mic. So then, as Lisa already mentioned, we split it, like we inspected first the models, whether they're MLP, CNN, or don't you have a mic? We work on this. This is yeah. So basically. Yeah, we basically split it. MLP and Lisa just told how we handled them. Then it was like CNNs. It was mentioned the CNNs. We didn't like start it from random noise. We already like built it like on the baseline, and it's. I think was also worth mentioning that since we treated each model individually, we could also consider like the differences in the amount of feature they have. 4, 3, 2, 5 seconds. Yeah, it was a lot of literature, and then for WIT, the baseline showed the best approach. We basically tried everything which we showed before for all of them, and somehow the baseline was like the most optimal one. You can see the images, and also there is like much more literature on the MLP and CNNs, and like the WIT and
we will
yes.
start throwing. We will start throwing in that direction. Okay, thank you so much. Sorry, it's been a long day. Any questions from the audience? And it's always the people furthest away with the question. Yeah.
Thank you for your presentation. I actually have the same question as I wanted to ask for the other presentation, so it's very good. What was your motivation for using the classifier in the first task?
Oh, I also have to speak into somebody's. No, I have to speak into your chest. So, so classifier, because it was so you mean the second step, right? Right in the beginning.
Yeah.
Because the idea was that okay, we had to predict 1 or 0 for each token. Is it watermarked or non-watermarked? And initial idea was like, okay, if we have detection scores from each of the methods, can we maybe combine them and based on this have some prediction? And to not have prediction very just on a single token, we actually use some convolution, so we actually could use some sequences. So, and the idea, so just because it can be viewed as a binary classification problem, but for each token.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks. You have to speak into it just.
Any other questions?
But it's different microphones.
Can you go back to task 2? So, okay, so Father, okay, so can you explain more what is really this deep margin and gentle, I suppose, learning rate PGD? So how were you able to go from non-members to members?
Hello. So, yeah. So what we were doing, so in the paper, in the MGI paper, there were two quantities described. One was LA, another one was delta, and they both correlated. So one was showing this was generated or not generated. I think it was LA, and delta was showing that it's the lowest from non-member, then member, then generated. And we had in the detector that we reconstructed from the paper, so we basically had these two values, and we wanted to flip. So these were the things that we were optimizing, and it was just gentle learning rate. It was just because we had a very lower scores to go into members for the first time, and then what actually worked is to decrease learning rate, but having many iterations. So we're trying to fine-tune it, and it worked. So it improved from 0.7 to 0.9, surprisingly, and gentle just because it was very slow steps, and it actually was like 300 iterations. Yes, and another was bend attack. Bend just simply because it was into the two dimensions, because we have to flip both LA and delta, because this was actually the most difficult case, because we had to both convince one metric that is not generated and another metric to go from one end to another, which is in the bottom we had member. No, member actually was not in the bottom. No, member was in the bottom, right? So it was not too bad, but. Yeah, but it was still, we had to flip both metrics. So that was like bend because we had we could see it as a rectangular, where we have to actually flip one edge, two edges, and yeah, this was it.
And for the third task, there was no specific method for VITs.
I guess. Oh, so many mics now. Yeah, so maybe we can go further. Yeah, the baseline somehow worked the best. We basically created the rough patches and then upsampled them and created the images. Yeah, and somehow it was the most efficient approach than all of the listed above and beyond. We also, I think, the most
that was specifically for the visual transformers, but it didn't get better results, so we abandoned it at some point.
The layer by
yes,
was most transformer relationship.
Okay.
And the thing is, there was this blurring in the end, and this blurring kind of improved scores significantly. So, and this was just like magic. It was 0.08, and it went to 0.24, especially also visual transformers. And I think at Peel there was some scores that were a bit better, but with blurring they ended up being the same. So maybe the baseline blurring was getting better, but with blurring it could not outperform it.
So it was punishing the noise more than the blurring.
Interesting. Okay.
Let's move on.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. So for you, this is the room and Zoom, and that's for our recording. So just make sure to have them kind of in the middle somehow.
This is for the recording?
Yeah,
just for the room.
Exactly. So
Hallo.
Ja, mach du.
there's one more.
Kannst du nehmen? Bei mir, ich bekomme es schwierig drauf. Abwechslung. 100% geplant.
Most exciting task for
Hello, we are team 1337, also from Vienna. And to mix things up, we start with the task 3. So our first approach was a decision tree, where we categorized in MLP, CNN, and VIT. For MLP, we just took the gradient and calculated it to make our prediction to the image. And our first approach got us to 0.33. However, we then come up with a new approach, the head-leak attack.
Okay, so the head-leak attack is basically, the idea is that we are given the gradients, and from the gradients, we can actually extract from the final layer, we can essentially extract a unique fingerprint, or almost unique fingerprint, for the singletons in the gradient set. And the idea behind extracting this fingerprint is, well, we have a fingerprint for the different images, and we then trained essentially a classifier, that a decoder that allows us to map a fingerprint to a picture, and we used a public face data set comprised of 12,000 images for that. which we basically trained to map. We basically put the images through the model that we also had access to generate the fingerprints. And then we trained the decoder to map the fingerprints back to the images. And then we used this decoder on the fingerprints that we extracted from the gradients to essentially get back the faces. That's essentially how we did task 3, and we achieved a mediocre score of 0.4, but that's just sometimes how it goes.
Yeah, I think you left out the slide.
Oh yeah, I left out the slide, unfortunately. Sorry, guys.
So basically, yeah, now we're coming to task 2. It was MGI. Whoops, where do I have it here? And yeah, so it's probably pretty obvious. You all know we had to detect the score and subtract 1 from the mean squared error. And yeah, we started by constructing a surrogate. I think most of us had the same approach. We had the paper, the MGI paper, which was probably already known by most of us. And so we used the model, and it is pretty much read the paper and try reconstruct in the RAR XL model, not the XXL, because we assumed that it would not have been used as a classifier. And so yeah, we used that as a surrogate and did a forward pass. We also used a PGD, projected gradient descent, and well, it was gradient ascent with a step of EOT. And so we optimized for boundaries, so we had the small errors. I think exactly, and we had all of these 6 classes, the 6 blocks, and most of us had the problems with the X to M blocks, which was having to have these MIA attacks. We did the first 4 blocks at first, where we didn't have to approach the MIA blocks at the beginning. Gained a pretty good score. Okay, next page. Yeah, had at the start a pretty good baseline of 74%. We did work first a lot on the first approach as well, but then you can see it went down logarithmically, and yeah, we tried on the G block at the end to go up step by step. It worked iteratively, but not as much as we would have liked to. And yeah, we started with a relative log likelihood comparisons because I and our team tried to compare. And yeah, so exactly. Next page. Yeah, we had 11 signals. Most of them were flat, and the log likelihood was the only one which was concave. So the only one we could use, and which we then had gradient ascent for. So yeah, and we yeah, used different measures. Also saw the min k plus measures used, and many different measures tried to extract different dimensions. And 11 of those failed, and the only one was the log likelihood. And yeah, for the MIA attacks, that's next page. Right. Okay.
All right. So basically, for the last test, we did not do anything which didn't the other groups do. We had like these 4 measurements, and we calculated the evidence. So our approach wasn't like machine learning based; it was statistic based because the keys were public. So we used signals as Gumbel value, green list, and text seal, and then we added entropy for this Quen model and log probability. And so the main point which improved our model was that we switched from HMM to HSMM, like other groups also did. So we could have a jump. So yeah, that's basically it. And we had like tested like 50 times and had 5 jumps.
So something I forgot to mention about the BITs, how we handled them. We basically didn't do anything special to handle them because we tried an analytics-based approach earlier, which was introduced by the paper, but so that didn't work. So yeah, thank you.
Great, thank you so much. And now questions from the audience.
Thanks for your talk. For the watermarking task again,
Yeah.
like you use the HMM and HSMM.
Yeah.
Why? Or like, how did you come up with this?
So basically, important that you, if you have like evidence for one token, then it is more likely that the tokens before and after could have been also a type of considered to the watermark. And if you just use HMM, it could lead to like if there are two watermarks right beside each other, that it doesn't mark them as different. Instead, it marks it as the same, and which this HSMM, you could solve that.
Okay.
I would also be curious about your head leak attack again. Like, can you go back and just like in simple terms explain? Because like a paper that we've written that looks into the first layer, right, and tries to
Yes.
extract directly there.
Yeah.
So I'd be extremely curious on the
Yeah, so we essentially look at the last layer because we realized that from the last layer, essentially, if we looked at the gradients and we could essentially we saw that in the gradients we basically had different photos, like 128 photos. But if there is a photo that has a unique label, like, which appears exactly once, then you can essentially compute a fingerprint by dividing the loss of the weight by the loss of the bias, or the other way around, I can't remember now. And this essentially gives you this fingerprint. And from this fingerprint, our idea was to essentially go backwards, because the fingerprint kind of doesn't help. We need to produce images, right? And now we just produced a number, essentially, and we need to go backwards now. And so what we did was we essentially trained this decoder, which allows us to go in this other direction by taking obviously we don't have access to the private pictures of the clients. That would be trivial then to solve this task. So what we did was we just use a public data set to essentially train this decoder, which then allows us to go into this other direction and predict the faces of the clients using their fingerprints.
Makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So regarding task 2, can you go back? You have many features, many. You have specialists for this clicker. Can you go to these features? You have like this big. Okay, no. I think that there is one. Not this one. Okay, this one actually. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So we tried. Tried to go through many different signals, and like tried 11 of those, and the only one that really helped was the conditional likelihood gap from the MIA score. And yeah, the area under the curve for that was 99% locally, which was a because we did try to replicate the two-stage pipeline from the paper. We had reconstructed that as in a way surrogate, and had our own adversarial attacks of one layer. And so basically, we did try many different like detections as well. We had some inspiration from the previous hackathon where we had to have an MIA attack with many different dimensions of retractions, means, and thinking that might as well help. Minor tried this as well, and yeah, unfortunately that did not help because at the end those were flat and single axis. So yeah, that was unfortunate. We did, in a way, lose a lot of time on that, and especially as well. I think I had to, but that's probably not that relevant. But no, it's okay. Anyway, well, we had these 300 image blocks, like we said, and it did take a lot of time. The first couple of runs were 2.5 hours. We did also lose a lot of time, and then we got to the point. Okay, why not? Those are additive. They are not dependent on each other, and we can basically we sent 2 blocks, 300 pages to the API endpoint, and said, okay, if we locally add up those scores we got and divide, like get the mean and predict, okay, that's probably going to be the score. So, okay, and we did get that mean score, so we assumed, okay, it is additive, so we don't have to do that, and split out the blocks in different, on 8 GPUs and shorten the runtime. Yeah, and perturbations.
Good, and I think we should move on.
Okay.
But thank you for the explanation. I'll be connected to the microphones. Thanks. Thank you so much. Okay. So like this is like the two small ones are for the recording. We have to make sure that the person wearing them is in the middle. That one is for the room audio and and that is a clicker.
Okay. Anybody speaking speaks with both of these, one as a backup. Who has the backup? I don't know. Take the backup. Give me the clicker and hand over to it. I can't really. Clicker, buddy, clicker.
And I'll be taking the time again. I'll show 4, 2, and 0.
Wait a second. Clicker in, clicking. Right. So, hello there. I hope you guys can hear us. We're Team Seaweeds from KTH, Stockholm. And let's jump straight into it. So, yikes. This is what we did for a previous hackathon, the regional version of it, where we had a bunch of agents talking to each other and iterating on something. And we might come back to this, but this is a strategy that exists and that we have exploited. Yeah, this is our general feeling about life right now. But text, right? How do you find a watermark? How do you detect a watermark? Problem recap, everybody knows this. I'm going to skip over, but I want to highlight something here. This guy, the problem statement explicitly said, combine or improve available signals. So we thought, okay, let's focus our efforts there. First thing we did was what anybody did, using the window-based detectors, per token statistics, sliding windows, re-implement basically what was said in the text sale paper, and the results were abysmal. We suffered, we were in pain, and we said, okay, let's look at the data set. We found, firstly, a problem here, right here, the halo issue, the thing that you guys talk about, what happens at the boundaries. We found that our scores kind of gently increased and then gently fell down, and most of our problems were here. If we killed the boundary predictions, our error rate dropped to like half of what we were doing previously. And then we noticed that the spans of the watermarks we were predicting were predictable. Like they could be span of 5, 64, 133, so on and so forth. So it looked like whoever had created this had created watermarks of fixed lengths. So we said, sure, let's do a HSMM. At this point, everybody knows, hidden semi-Markov model. But the extra step is we force the duration prior to come from this categorical distribution. Like we tell you, hey, you can either be 24, 31, 47, so on and so forth, right? We got really good results on that, but then we fell back to our strategy. Oh, 4 minutes, wow, goddamn. Right, and then we blended stuff together and we got really good stuff.
All right, so the solution here depends on like really deeply understanding the paper. So basically, I was the theorizer. He was the one prompting Claude. So I was kind of like, I was like warm tongue whispering to his ears. He was whispering to Claude. So under this understanding discrimination, you have two important steps. You have the encoder decoder. This is only relevant for G to M, because the whole thing was that the soda was really good at doing M to N, but they couldn't do G to M, and that's because they did the encoder decoder. Then you use CPD for everything else, because that's what the soda did before, basically. Okay, so now run images through the encoder. You can just run them through the encoder and get like a perfect reconstruction. And because you run them through the encoder, it goes to the latent space, which basically squishes the latent space into the quantized tokens. And when you get it out, it becomes like this thing that's obviously from the probability distribution of the quantized tokens. And then it thinks it's generated, and that's perfect, basically. And then after that, you just do an optimization with loss functions. So if you go from M to N, you do CPD, just normal CPD, and you condition that you don't want the image to change too much, so you condition on MSE. Problem classifying, so if you go from G to M, and G to M, it's a little bit more complicated, because now you have to basically, you want to make the quant loss and the reconstruction loss, you want to maximize it. But you still, you still want to condition on the MSE, and you still want to condition on the CPD to make sure that you go to M or N, like you know where you're going. Okay, and then classifying out of distribution. So we need to use separate model connects to classify things. Okay, that's it. Yeah.
A lot of things to hold on to.
Right.
All right. So skip.
This is
Final we can skip.
Slide from our
Yeah.
previous stop
Yeah.
version.
All right. Final task. Okay, directly there. Okay, nice. So we start off doing some basic algebra to get the baseline of recovered images. So we saw that there were faces and they were also super grainy. The score was 0.26, and SSIM, the score function or metric, punishes grain. So what can we do? Can we denoise it to get a higher score? That's what we try now. So we tried a bunch of different denoisers that existed. The issue with that was that they don't know our noise, right? That's generated when you convert the gradients to images. So what we did was we trained our own denoiser. We found a public data set trained on celebrity faces or consistent celebrity faces, and we plugged in the faces into the models, the white box models, in a forward pass, and then we did backpropagation to get the gradients. And using those gradients, we can now technically recover faces, right? So we had blurred faces, and then we built a unit to basically convert the blurred faces into our source of truth, ground truth, perfect identical faces. Yes, this worked super well to begin with. It was a good starting baseline. We can skip this one. We also tried to build a network to convert the gradients directly to very nice crisp faces, but that didn't work very well. We did some other stuff, but this was also another key. So once we kind of generated these less blurry or less noisy images, we realized, hey, we have faces, we see maybe CISPA, they like to use open source data sets, and the denoiser worked surprisingly well. So maybe, the intuition said maybe we could find the data set they use to actually train their models, or use that's their data. So that's what we did. We used the CELB-A data sets. And for each image, we queried the entire data set that we had and picked the most similar image and replaced them. But that worked not too well because I think you use synthetic data. So we actually also tried to use some diffusion models. Yeah. Good.
Do we have questions from the audience?
Yeah. This is the most important slide.
Hey. Thanks. For the watermarking task, what exactly did you blend?
Right. So here's the thing. Watermarking and blending, right? So what we had done was I was on one hand doing the hidden semi-Markov models, and on the other hand, Michael and Ankit were working on separate strategies, like literally different optimizations to the baselines, like the window models and the HMM models, right? Or how do we, at some point we were doing the entropy stuff that other people were doing as well. So we had these different solutions, and they were good in themselves, but we thought, I have a pen, I have an apple, why the hell not? So we just essentially said, oh, give 60% weight to solution A because that had a better score, give 40% weight to solution B because that had a slightly worse score, mix them up, submit it again, see what happens.
So you tried a bunch of stuff basically and then just put everything in the top pot in the end.
Look, both.
Okay, both of them? Yeah.
Working.
Hello.
You might not be holding it correctly.
Looks good, yeah.
Hello. Okay. So basically what we realized is that we were trying different methods, and then some of them were good in certain areas, in certain parts, but the other ones, they were not good in the other parts. So what we did is that we performed an analysis over all of the logs that we had over all of our models, and then what we realized is what we can do now is that we can look at the correlation between different models. You can look at the correlation between the results and the models themselves. If there is a very high, let's say, Spearman rank correlation, let's say above 0.9, then it doesn't make sense to merge them. So we want dissimilar models and we merge them together, and then you do hyperparameter tuning and how you merge them. So let's say one of them is better within spans. The other one that could be better in some other area, like the boundary. So now it logically makes sense to like combine them in some manner, I guess. So it's sort of similar to like random forests. You have decision trees and you combine different things together. So just take the best of two different worlds, I guess.
Thank you.
Any questions from the audience? Over there.
Good catch.
In task 2,
Uh-huh.
the model was a conditional generative model. So, how do you treat the C labels, or you predict them, or what do you do with the C label?
So like as I said, the C label. I mean, okay. So when it's in distribution, you can just use the RAR to get the label, right? But if it's not in distribution, it hasn't seen it before, so that's kind of stupid. But that conv next is just a model, and this is just Claude pointed us to this, and there was another team that did it too. So I think Claude maybe pointed it to many people. But conv next is a model that basically specific for like giving a what label to an image, right? So just here's a car, there's a car.
So for this task, which really method gave you the biggest boost in the performance?
I mean, technically, just running it through the encoder decoder was like perfect. So that was just 30 out the get go for free, 33.
And
But
did you actually use the inversion of the decoder, or you just use the encoder?
no, you just pat the image through the encoder decoder and say, hey, I want the same image back. It's very simple. For the rest of it, I would say actually doing convex because of the out of distribution was very good. That did help a lot. And in general, just doing optimization was very effective with that. Like I mean, it's an optimization problem. So it got us from like 50 to 70 or something. I don't know. Remember? Maybe it was 80. It got us to. I don't remember. Yeah, 83. Yeah. Well.
So
Now,
I just have a size.
let me take a photo. So we'll be taking a photo. Thank you so much. Yes, everybody will be gathering in the hall. There's.
So this quick thing.
You still have one of these micros? Wait, like, do you still have one of the small ones?
Nope.
Oh, this. Evie.
Microphones around your neck.
Oh my God. Sorry, I just put it there. I forgot.
So okay, so we have a photo, right, for everyone in the main hall. Then have a lunch afterwards, and there will be bus from here to the hotel at 1:45 p.m. And then all of you will also will have the ceremony and the big party. And the bus is at 5:30 p.m. from the hotel. So the bus actually delivers you from the hotel to the place for the ceremony. So and after the lunch, our CISPA team will meet to discuss the solutions, to discuss the presentations, and you will learn about the best 3 teams at the ceremony. Okay, so let's enjoy.
Since it's complicated, maybe